Hey, and a very warm welcome to the Into the LightWeb podcast with me, your hostess, Joanna Hunter, metaphysical teacher, spiritual life and business coach, published author, and the high priestess of the LightWeb, a spiritual technology that will change your life. This is the place to be to talk everything under the LightWeb, from consciousness, relationships, to money, to spiritual business, and everything in between. Hey, and a warm welcome to the $1 Million Lab series here on Into the LightWeb podcast with me, your host, Joanna Hunter. I am so excited to introduce this next woman to you. We have orbited each other for about 5 years, and I have seen her meteoric rise firsthand. It is so impressive. Suzy Ashworth is a mum of three, a 7-figure serial entrepreneur, a Hay House author, and international keynote speaker. And Suzy just shares some amazing truth bombs in this podcast episode, so I can't wait to share it with you. Hi, it's Joanna Hunter here for the $1 Million Lab series in the Into the LightWeb podcast, and I am joined by the gorgeous Suzy Ashworth. And she is a Hay House author, I can hardly speak today, Hay House author and a 7-figure entrepreneur, and also as well a mum of 3. So I'm super excited to be joined by Suzy. Come and say hello, Suzy, and really introduce yourself to everybody on the podcast as well.
Hey. Thank you so much for inviting me on. I loved our chat beforehand, just talking about the $1 Million Experiment. I think that your intention behind this, activating, I think there are over 4,000 people now in the lab, in the experiment, all ready to make their million. I think it's so beautiful. And I think when I think about the start of my entrepreneurial journey, I didn't even know that making £1 million, over £1 million in a year was even possible. So I am super excited to, spread some of the vibes, the codes, the frequencies that I have been using and continue to utilize on a daily basis to help create more abundance in my life and the life of my clients.
Oh, I love it. So I met Suzy in the money boot camp by Denise Duffield-Thomas. So if you have been listening to our podcast for a while, you know that Denise's episode is episode 1. And so I've seen we've been in boot camp for quite some time together. So I've seen your kind of journey unfold, and it's been really amazing as you're up leveling. And I love that you shared you didn't even know it was possible to start with, like this. And this is one of the things that I love about this journey is that, we don't have to have it figured out as we take the first step. We don't have to have the end goal in sight. It can evolve and expand. So tell us a little bit about your journey, because we start off and we're not even believing that the 7-figure shizzle is even possible. So we take one foot in front of the other and we take our first step in our entrepreneurial journey. So how does that look for you?
The first step was actually getting pregnant with my eldest son, who is now 10. Okay. And the moment that I found out that I was pregnant with him, I knew that I wanted to be able to say to him, you can do anything that you want. And I looked at the life that I was leading, and more importantly, the job that I was in. And I just knew that even though I'd had fun, even though I worked in media, I worked for the Guardian newspaper in the advertising department. So it was work hard, play hard, lots of drinks, nails, all of that kind of she stuff. But I knew that I didn't want to go to the top. I knew that I never wanted to be managing director of the Guardian. And I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew that I wasn't doing anything that I could. And so when I got pregnant with him, I made the decision that I was going to work for myself, which when I think about that, when I reflect on that, even that was weird, because it was like, I didn't know anybody that worked for themselves. I didn't have that as a model, but I made the decision that I was going to. It took me until I got pregnant again with my second child Coco, who is now 7, to actually make the leap. But when I went on maternity leave, I decided that I was going to retrain as a hypnotherapist and a psychotherapist, and a hypnobirthing practitioner. And that was really the start.
Okay, I love it. I love it. And it's so cool that, because a lot of people, you know, when they first get pregnant, it's like, stay in the secure job. And you're like, out the window, let's do self-employment, which is kind of like this, right?
Yeah.
So we get into the hypnobirthing, and I know that you have done like amazing things in the hypnobirthing world. So you wrote a book on that. Am I right in saying that? Yes. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about that journey as well, because so you get right into that world, because it's not really quite what you do now, is it?
It's really interesting, because I would say that the skill set and the mindset is actually, there's a huge crossover, but they are completely different fields. What happened was I started off doing the hypnotherapy and felt that I wasn't very good at it. I was going around, I was putting up the posters in the local leisure centre, and I was doing the stuff. I thought I was going to specialise in anxiety and depression, and I realised that I wasn't good at, I mean, it's interesting because hypnobirthing, there is some anxiety in there, but it's not generalised anxiety. It's not traditionally what we would perhaps associate with it. And I tried that and was rubbish at it, and decided that I was going to go all in on hypnobirthing, because I'd had 2 hypnobirths myself. I'd had both of the kids at home, in the pool, in the water, beautiful experiences. And I was like, right, this is the thing that I'm going to put my fork in the sand with. And what was interesting is that I was scared, and I didn't want to take the risk of going all in on something by myself. And so I'd already called up lots of local hypnobirthing practitioners to kind of get there, to pick your brain, let's go for a coffee, let's have a chat. And everybody was like, no. And everybody was like, you can't make money in hypnobirthing, you're wasting your time, you want to focus on this, you want to focus on that, except one person. And that one person took some time out with me. Interestingly enough, she was the most successful hypnobirthing practitioner in the area at that time. She took some time out, we had a coffee, she was really lovely. And when I had the business idea, so we created the Calm Birth School, which was the world's first video-based hypnobirthing program at the time. I'd done a course called B-School, and 3 weeks into that course, I'd had this download that I wanted to create this course. And because I was scared and didn't want to do it on my own, I reached out to the one person who had given me the time of day and said, do you want to go into partnership together and create this program? And so that was really the start of my entrepreneurial journey. Like, up until that point, I'd been seeing clients face to face and been bringing people back to my house as I was still studying the hypnotherapy and psychotherapy. But the Calm Birth School and the book, we're doing a second edition called the Calm Birth Method. Yeah, that feels like it was the beginning.
I love that you said in this journey that you were scared, so you kind of went and got a little blankie basically to help you out, because I recognize that. I mean, I've had a very long kind of entrepreneurial career that spanned over 20 years now, but in my second business, I did exactly the same thing. It sounds like the partnership worked out really well for you. Unfortunately for me, it didn't. It didn't. Okay.
It didn't.
Well, it was a very, very big lesson for me, shall I say. It was a huge lesson for me, and I think it was really the lesson for me where I discovered that I really was a leader and not a follower.
Yeah.
And so it was a friendship imploding partnership on my side, but I was sitting there thinking, this sounds great, it still worked out, and you're doing another edition of the book and stuff. But yeah, it's a very hard lesson to learn that, you know. And I, like you, also entered the partnership from the energy of fear, that I felt like I was worried that I wasn't enough to run two businesses. I could have, you know, I had done the first one and it was like by a wing and a prayer. And then I thought, right, if I bring this partner in, it would maybe be, you know, like this.
I think a lot of people do that. And I think it's a really bad reason to go into business with somebody else. Now, obviously, this was not a conscious decision.
No, it's not.
It was
it's
very
not.
like, I just want to share this. And, you know, you win together and you fail together and it's all great. And I think the biggest lesson that I took from that, and when I'm talking to my clients about whether they should enter into partnerships, is you have to complement each other. And what was really interesting, we done this personality test called Wealth Dynamics, and we were so close. I think there was like 1 degree difference. And what that meant was when we agreed with something, it was amazing. And we were completely like on the same page. When we disagreed, it was like fire, you know, it was explosive. And what you said about wanting to be a leader, you know, we both wanted to be a leader. You know, we both wanted to have the recognition. We both wanted the other person to be saying, you're amazing, you're this, you're, you know, and we weren't able to do that. So it felt, I think in the end, like there was almost like this silent competition going on. And it wasn't healthy. Fortunately, I will say that we are friends, not like we're not hanging out and going for tea together, but time is a great healer, and we've both gone on to be successful in our own rights, which is amazing. Beautiful. And there's no ill feeling there now. At the time, it was very hard.
Yeah, I've been there, and it is. And also as well, I see it a lot in people, you know, and then also as well, it's a very totes awkward conversation when we're going to extract ourselves from that situation, how we're going to do it, how we're going to split up the assets of a business, that kind of thing, how all that's going to work. And I think that for many people, that becomes a really sticky situation. And I think, you know, this, I'm so glad this came up actually in this is why I love these conversations, because there's always something so juicy that comes up. And you know, although I hear you, I wasn't conscious either of like, you know, I was looking for the security blanket and having a business partner. For me, it was you know, I thought this would be great and it would share the workload, and like it was my good intentions that paved that road to hell. You know. And I think sometimes we need to really examine what is the crux underneath it, because underneath it all, it was my own fear that I wasn't enough. And I think many people enter into business partnerships with that, which is why they don't always work out. So we've done the Hypnobirthing, or Calm Birthing School, and then how does the business evolve from there? Like, how do you evolve from this partnership onwards?
Yeah, so I think what was interesting about that business is that it really made a splash in the hypnobirthing world. There were kind of 3 main players at the time, and then the Calm Birth School came along, and it was targeted at a different audience. It was targeted at women like ourselves who were very ambitious and, you know, worked in the city and all of that jazz. And up until that point, hypnobirthing had been very crunchy, granola, you know, knit your own knickers, that kind of vibe. So we brought this real freshness, and what happened was people took notice. So our peers in the industry were taking notice. It was not only were we riding the crest of the wave with hypnobirthing, but it was a video-based program. So we were using online marketing, and we were doing it better than the established players. They had bigger audiences, but we were doing something that people hadn't seen, and people were asking, how are you doing this? And what was really interesting for me is that I knew, when I looked at my peers in the birthing industry, they were obsessed with birth. They were obsessed with vaginas. They were obsessed with, you know, every single birth book, they would have it. Me, not so much. I was obsessed with marketing. I was obsessed with all of the strategy and, you know, building an online brand and all of this stuff. That was the stuff that riveted me. And at the same time, I have been on my own spiritual journey and personal development journey for, my entire life, but certainly when my foster mother passed away when I was 19, that kick-started a whole, who do I want to be? What's the life that I want to create? And so what was interesting about the hypnobirthing is that it's very much, you are asking women, what do you want to create when it comes to your birthing experience? Yeah. And then what are the stories that are holding you back? Where do you feel the fear? And you're providing these mindset tools to help them release their fear and release the blocks. And first of all, you're giving them permission, then you're giving them the tools to create what it is that they want to experience. And what I realized after I started, people were asking me about mentoring for marketing, and I was putting the intention out there that I wanted to support baby business owners, so people in that baby world. And what I was realizing is that my job was to ask people, what is it that you want to create? Identify the blocks that kept them from showing up and doing the work and being the person, and then provide the practical strategies for the actual how-to. And so that's why I say that crossover between what I learned in hypnobirthing and helping people get what they want and helping people in business.
What's happening inside the $1 Million Experiment. I call it looking at what is your janky energy, where's the misalignment, where's the what do you want to create, where's the and doing the work on starting to shift those stories that are blocking us and holding us back. And I love it. And it's funny because we look how versatile this work really is, from birthing to business to creating $1 million to manifesting. We can see it in so many different, it has so many applications, which I love. So we then get into this business world, and it's just baby businesses, like people who want to be in that baby industry and everything. And so but it quickly expands.
And just to talk on that point, for those people who are starting out, I think that one of the things that enabled me to make my first 6 figures, so I did my first year of business, I made minus £14,000. Yay! My second year of business, I made 125,000. And I believe that I was able to make that jump because I was taking universal marketing principles, but I was applying it to a very specific niche. And what that did is quickly position me as the go-to person. If you were in the birth industry and you wanted to make money online, you wanted to make your first £1,000, you wanted to build an online course, you need to come to Suzy because she's done it. She's doing it with the Calm Birth School, and she gets the way that we think in the way that general marketers do not understand the way that we think. And so that positioning piece, I think, was really powerful when it came to putting my name on the map very early. So I worked with baby business owners maybe like for 2 years before I started wanting to reach a wider audience. And I think that one of the questions that people always ask me is, how do we up-level my audience? I don't think my audience are the people that I want to be speaking to. Like, what did you do? Because you've pivoted your business so much. And honestly, I think that all I have ever done is the mindset, calling in my dreamboat clients, but my messaging. And so what happened when I started to want to move away from baby business owners, guess what? I attracted people who wanted to move away from the baby business world, who wanted to move into coaching, who wanted to move into consulting, because I was speaking to that and I was showing them that. I was like, rather than talking about make your first £1,000 in your online business, it was make your first £5,000 as a business coach or a life coach, or whatever that specific messaging was. And so those people were already in my audience. I've had people who have bought the Calm Birth School, £97, and then gone on and joined me in my group coaching program at £15,000. Same person have come with me. What changed was the messaging.
The messaging has changed. What I love that you touched on there as well was, this is something that I talk about a lot with my business coaching clients, is that when you first start your business, like, you've had a number of pivots here, right? And what it really is a deepening of you as you deepen further and further into what you love, what you adore, a deepening of you. And I see so many people make what I feel is a little piece of a rookie mistake, where they pick a really fancy smancy name and they go buy the money, spend the money on the logo, and they get a fancy website to go with it, and they buy the domain to go with the logo and everything, right? But then what happens is that name becomes too restrictive as they're evolving, because there's this evolution that's happening. So I always recommend to people that, I know it feels scary to really put yourself out there, but if you use your name, like, that's why I'm like JoannaHunter.com, and I see that you're similar, right? And so this is why it's so important, because like, you can then, you have this space, like, you're evolving, you're changing it, and you are the brand, basically. And it starts to evolve. So you can make these pivots, and it doesn't mean like, oh crap, we are gonna have to come up with a new name, or we're gonna, all this investment that we've made on this name, we're gonna have to ditch this. Like, no, you can take everything kind of with you and grow it and evolve it into the next evolution of it, which I mean, I see this evolution time and time again. And so many people come, and and I've had so many people over the years come, and they're like, we're this business, and then like a year later they're in a completely different niche, positioned completely differently. They're super happy, and they've just had a deepening of what they're all about. And so I love that you brought that up, because I think so many people fall into that little trap of where they spend the money on like a snazzy name and everything like that, and they do a lot of investment, time, energy, resources into that, and then of course they pivot. But if they have done the investment, they're less likely to pivot, so they stay stuck and they stay unhappy. And so I love that you've had this expansion. And so now we're serving all different types of entrepreneurs, all female entrepreneurs. And you've got this one-day event. Tell us a little bit about this one-day event that you do, because I hear lots of people talking about it.
So I have the Limitless Live, which is usually a multi-speaker event, actually, where I bring the best of the best along to share their wisdom, and it's all about life. And that event started 3 years ago, and it was really born from a place of wanting to do more speaking gigs and wanting to be invited on stage, and nobody inviting me. And so I was like, you know what? I am just going to create my own event. And what was interesting, I love the fact that it's multi-speaker, but I know that at the time, again, fear, I chose it to be multi-speaker because I didn't think that people would invest to come and spend a whole day listening to me chat about living a limitless life. I now know that not to be true, because I have a 3-day event called The One, which is shifting to the quantum shift next year, which I'm super excited about, where it is just me. But Limitless Live, the first time to have 100 women in the audience and just see the transformations, it's like an intense day. People come and they share real stories very authentically. There's a lot of tears, there's a lot of laughter, there's always dancing. But yeah, really beautiful. And it's about, living beyond your limits.
I love that. I love that. So you've also you've also went kind of like a little bit digital nomad for a little while as well. So tell us about that, because I think that's a big dream with online entrepreneurs, is that we get that flexibility of like, if I have a Wi-Fi connection, I can be anywhere in the world, which I love. Like, I love that flexibility about my business. So tell us a little bit, because you went somewhere really glamorous places, which I think sounds gorgeous.
Well, I think that it sounds glamorous, but it's not really. We were spent 16 months in Puerto Escondido on the east. Is it the East Coast? God, it's terrible. I don't know my compass points. I think it's the East Coast, Pacific side of Mexico. And that was a life-changing experience that I will be forever grateful for. I don't believe, if we hadn't gone to Mexico, I don't believe that I would have hit 7 figures in 2020. You know, we left January 2019 and we left like buying our tickets on credit cards, and we came back as a family in business class. And it was a real, it was such a beautiful journey. And I would say that that was the start of a deeper level of spiritual awakening.
Gorgeous. I love it. I love it. This is the thing that I love about the industry that we are in. It can shift so fast and rapidly. Yeah. And I think that there is these years where we are laying the groundwork and the foundations and all the things. And then there's just this time where you just become ready to code for the next level. And it comes, and at that point, I think when you're ready for that code to come in, you code so rapidly and you're moving through the energy so rapidly. And I love that you experienced that out in Mexico. Where I'm just so jealous of any sunshine at this point in time.
Yeah.
Literally going like I've got lockdown cabin fever now of being in Scotland, and by now I like normally at this point in the year I've already been to like maybe 2 or 3 countries.
Yeah.
At the moment I'm like I've not even left my town. So yes, anywhere where there's sunshine, I have big doe eyes of like, I really want to
dreaming.
get there.
Try not to wish our life away.
Absolutely. Like I'm trying to remain in the present moment at the same time as like I really just want to be somewhere. I just want to see the big fiery ball. But I mean, I also live in Scotland, so it's not out that often here.
I hear you. And Scotland is beautiful, so we don't want to diss it, but there's a lot of rain.
Gorgeous. Oh my God, I am so blessed where I live. It's so beautiful. It's so, so beautiful. But I just sun and being able to swim outside, that's on my to-do list for 2021. Whatever happens, that will happen this year. So tell us a little bit more about making that huge shift of going from flights on credit cards to like, we're flying home in class, people, and bringing your whole family home in that business class. And what has, and going through that spiritual awakening and deepening of your message, deepening of everything, and reaching 7 figures in your business. What was the big shifts for you during that time?
I think that one of the things was permission to be in overflow. And so up until that point in my business, so I've essentially doubled my business year on year for 4 years. And in the 5th year, we hit 420,000. And the 4th year, we were at 469,000. And so there was a plateau. And that's turnover. And what was interesting is that I was very good at receiving money, but I wasn't good at being in overflow. And it's interesting, I deliberately use that word overflow as opposed to keeping it, because I believe that in order to allow more in, being good at allowing the money to flow through the system is really important. It's a cycle. So it's ebbs and flows, it's give and receive. And I was good at receiving, but I was still living in the mentality of we only ever have just enough. That is what I grew up with. I had a really beautiful childhood, but we only ever had just enough. My parents worked very, very hard, and it's like, we can get it, we will get what we need, just. And so it didn't matter how much money was coming in, there was still always only just enough left to like cover all of the outgoings. So there was a big shift in making the decision that I was available for overflow.
I love that. For me, that became a conscious decision as well. And I think when you have grown up in what I call lack consciousness, where everyone around you and you're coding for that lack consciousness over and over again by repeating the patterns of your parents and everything. And it was like, it was okay to have enough, but how very dare you have more than enough, right? And giving ourselves that permission to have that overflow. And I love that you call it overflow, because this is one of the elements of this is that I talk in the community. I talk about the energetic fill level. What would actually fill your container so that you have more than that you have enough to cover everything. Because it depends where you fall in the camp. Either you're covering your bills at the moment or you're not covering your bills at the moment. If you're not covering your bills at the moment, your energetic fill level is your first goal. After you've got there, it's about creating the surplus. But what we hoard stagnates. Then we're hoarding the money, then the money stagnates, and it needs to flow to keep fresh energy moving and to keep the energy super fresh. And so I love that you call it overflow, because that's exactly what it is. So giving that permission to have overflow. Can you give us some examples of what that, I know this is like a Johnny on the spot question, but like, can you give us some examples of what that looked like for you in the process of permission for yourself? Like, what was it? Journaling? Was it like just surrounding yourself maybe with a different type of wealth, or what kind of processes did you go through there?
I mean, lots. I have, and it's funny actually, because I remember, I can't remember what date it was, but I created like a program called Magic Money after I'd had my first £53,000 month. And I remember that the actual intention was for me to hit 60,000. And so I missed the goal, but I hit 53, which was at the time my biggest month in business. And so I shared the practices and opening myself up to receiving. So noticing where I was saying no to myself and choosing to say yes more. So, when you get to a certain level, you are, like I said, I was already open to receiving, but I wasn't good at allowing myself to be in overflow. So consciously allowing myself to receive way more than what I needed to, allowing people to be generous with me, giving myself to be permission to be generous with myself, allowing myself to tap into the frequency of adoration for myself was a real big one, like I am beautiful, I am enough, I feel amazing, like I feel amazing in my own skin. And to the point where I would just, each foot that I would put in front of me became a practice. There was real mindfulness and acknowledgement of the beauty of just me being able to put one foot in front of the other. It was games. I became so playful with the practices of allowing more of myself. And it's really interesting. You talk about deepening into yourself. And the phrase that I use now, I wasn't using it at the time, was having all of myself. I say that now, it's about having all of myself. So these personal practices was the start of that. But the second real big thing was environment. And this is why I say, if we hadn't gone to Mexico, I don't think that I would be sat here as a 7-figure entrepreneur today. We would have got there eventually, but probably not today.
But not as fast.
I went to Colombia on a retreat, and this retreat was filled with 7- and 8-figure entrepreneurs. And I looked at them and I was really like, these people aren't any different to me. And if they can do it, I can do it. So that was the first thing. And then the second thing was at this retreat. So I'd had a failed, when we got to Mexico, I'd had this failed launch. And when I say failed in inverted commas, because it made 30,000, but 12,000 of that had come from a private client, and the rest would come from these kind of low ticket sales. And I was really disappointed. I'd been expecting to make at least double that. And I'd made this story up in my head that challenges didn't work, and, you know, I needed to do things differently. And on this retreat, I met a woman who had done $900,000 on a $3,000 program that was targeted at people that were moving from their 9-to-5s into entrepreneurship. And just hearing that story smashed my limiting beliefs like into smithereens. It was like, challenges work. She's selling a $3,000 program off the back of a challenge, and she's selling it to people who are not even in business yet. Okay, you get to rethink things. And so permission, allowing myself, playfulness, environment, and seeing examples of people that were doing what I knew was possible for me too.
I love this. This is my intent. This was my intention behind the podcast, was to create what I call I nicknamed it the Millionaire Marinade. Like, marinade in the vibes of people who have gone before you and done the extraordinary, so that you hear their stories and it begins to normalize that you can do this too. And so I love that you went to this retreat, saw your 7 and 8 figure, and it was like, yeah, they're not that different from me. Mm-hmm. They're not all that in a bag of chips. They're extraordinary humans, but I can be these people too, right? And then we get in and we code for that. And then I loved how you were open and available for having your story smashed to smithereens when somebody comes out. Because sometimes I had a very big story around, in order to have success, I had to do Facebook ads. I am not a Facebook ads person. So I have literally been around every single house of the Facebook ads world, right? So like, I took all the courses, so spent like thousands of dollars on courses, and I still hate ads, right? So then I was like, I know, I will live source ads. I still hated ads, even though somebody else is now doing them for me. And then it just took this woman who multiple, 8-figure business owner, made $11 million last year, and and basically was like, yeah, we tried ads for like 3 months and it wasn't for me, and just hearing that she could do that on organic reach, which was my specialty. But I had so convinced myself in the story that if we're going to go to the 7 figures, you had to do the ads. And then hearing her blow that out of the water, I was like, so grateful, because it was suddenly, this weight was off my shoulders, and I was like, I can do this. I can totally do this. And the thing is, you'd run challenges in the past, right? So there's probably a massive weight off your shoulders hearing what this woman could do with them, and you were like, I got this. I can do this. I just got to get back on that horse, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So I love it, and I love the environment as well. And I think environment is really, I love that you touch on it, because this is something that comes up in boot camp as well, in Denise's world, where we get encouraged to go and have a look at stuff that's outside our financial environment, our normal financial environment. And I think it's so important that we do go out and we have a little look at, see what else is out there and see how other people live, because it starts to, we start to see them, and it's not about comparing ourselves, and yet it totally is, but like seeing that actually they're not that different from us.
I think it's identity. I think it's behavior. I think it's frequency. So, and proximity. And, for me, not only was I in this environment with these 7 and 8 figure entrepreneurs, but from August to December 2019, I made 4 significantly big investments. What I love about your experiment is that actually people get to put their foot in with only $25. And I think that is amazing. And at the other end of the spectrum, I invested, and to be really clear, I all on payment plans. I did not have the money that I chose to invest, but I made, $120,000 worth of commitment to myself at the end of 2019. And every single time, every time I did it, I was like, I must look crazy. People must think I'm crazy right now because I've just invested in this thing and now I'm investing in another thing and then I'm going to invest in this thing and then I'm going to invest. Like, people must think I'm crazy. But every time I was like, I could see this is how it's going to help me. This is how it's going to complement what I've just committed to. This is how it's different from what I've just committed. Like, these are the things. And so immediately I was required to up level to make sure that I could make the payments. And, the ROI was literally 10 times. I invested 120 at the end of 2019 and I made 1.2 million in revenue and 1.8 million in sales by the end of 2020.
This is the thing that I love. And the whole idea of the $1 million experiment is to open people's eyes to a world where we need to prioritize investing. And maybe in the beginning, it's the $25 that we have, but we also have other things that we can invest, like time.
Yes.
Like, in our attention as well, right? What are we giving our attention to? Time. If we're really, really in a place where we're not earning very much money and things like that, those are the things that we can invest in. And I did that in the early days. I literally did not have like 2 pence to rub together. But as I started to up level, I absolutely was on the same bandwagon as you, like, invest in myself, believe in myself, pay the money to learn from the experts who have gone before me, who have ideas and codes for worlds that I am not part of, but I want and desire to be part of, and for them to bring that to me by me investing not only my money, which is a resource, but investing my energy and investing my attention and being fully present for that. And I think, that is I think a lot of people look at the money commitment and see the money commitment, but it's so much more than that. Like, we've all done it, right? Made the money commitment and didn't make the time commitment. Did we get the result? No. If we don't make the time commitment, we don't get the result, right? It's not greatness by osmosis. It's greatness by being in the vibes and actually doing the thing. So
faith plus action. There's no action.
Faith plus action equals miracles. Absolutely. And this is it, right? And so I love that you literally just walk your talk and that you popped all that investment in. And I know that that's not going to be for everyone, right? Because it takes a lot, like your sign says, it takes a lot of faith to get to that place.
I was ready. And I think that, alongside the physical investments, I was doing so much energy work to upgrade my frequency, to clear my physical channel, so that it made it easier for me to receive more. I was cleaning up my field all of the time. And I think that everybody's heard a story of somebody who's invested at a high level and not got the results. And, you spoke to it there about putting your time and energy into it. And that can be scary. You have to really make the decision. I joined a $1 million mastermind 2 years prior. People would ask me what my goal was, and I'd say 500,000. I was not, for 2 whole years, I could not allow myself to say, I want to make $1 million. So if you can't even say it, you're definitely not going to be creating it.
Exactly, right?
Once I decided, the commitment to myself was all of your actions line up with being the type of person who's creating 7-figure impact, and allowing 7-figure income.
That's it. And the thing is, the way that I see it in energy, so I've always had the ability to see energy since I was like forever. I don't remember a time I didn't see energy around people. And so often what happens is once the decision is made, you're already there. You're at the result, even though the result isn't in your physical environment yet. It's like the outer world is just playing catch up to the decision that you have made, because, and I love, one of the things I really geek out at is like the etymology of words, the origin story of words. And decision has more in common with words like herbicide and homicide, which are to kill. And it really comes from the Latin to kill off. And what I love is I have this image of a table with all these different options and choices. And when you make a decision, you clear everything off the table, you leave one thing on it. But what people don't realize is when you clear everything off the table, one of the things that you clear off the table is failure.
Yeah.
It's not an option anymore.
So from a quantum physics perspective, it's the observer effect.
Yeah.
The moment that you observe in your mind the possibility, all other possibilities, disappear.
Absolutely. Yes.
And what's really interesting, the way that I like to talk about this is that each possibility lives on its own timeline.
Yeah.
And all timelines are happening at the same time until you collapse, you until you focus on the one specific place, and then you collapse all of the other options.
Absolutely.
And I talk about this like making a quantum leap, or I used to talk about making a quantum leap, and people in our world understand that idea of making a big shift quickly. And because all of those different options are available to us now.
Yes.
Rather than making a leap, you get to step into it. Energetically, you just get to step into it. It can be your next natural step. And for me, that was a big shift. I haven't spoken about this for a little while, and I love reminding myself that it's all now. It doesn't have to be a massive, scary jump. I just get to step into that next goal, vision, vibration, with my intention.
I love that. I speak a lot about it's never over there, it's always here. So like we have this illusion that it's going to be over there. And if I could just, like, the fancier clients are over there. And if I could just get to the fancier clients over there, then I could just have, and then we, we make it mean something, like we can make more money or we can do more things. And I just need to be over there. But actually, wherever you are, it's all going to happen here. So, whether you are earning 2,000 a month, or whether you are earning 1,000 a month, or whether you're earning we're going to be speaking to someone saying that's earning $1 million a month, and or whether you're earning $1 million a year, right? Like it happens here. It does not happen over there. It does not happen in other places. It happens here. And I think that this is the thing, is that yes, it is just an expansion on here. It is not a let me get over there and then I will be happy when.
Exactly.
Which is like the killer of your dreams, basically. I will be happy when.
The biggest lie ever.
It is the biggest lie ever. I love it. I love how much we're on the same page. I literally feel like I could just chat to you the whole day. So I just want to wrap up with somebody who is finding themselves maybe quite new on the journey and stepping in. What is your sort of top 3 pieces of advice? Rather than just asking for one, I think there's probably, because it's more, we have to do more than one thing, really, I feel, in shifting the energy.
Yeah. So the first thing is to decide what it is that you desire. What do you actually want? The second thing is to give yourself permission to receive it. I think that a lot of the time when people are in want, it's a hope, it's a wish, it's an over there thing.
Yeah.
Give yourself permission to be available for the thing that you want now. And then the third thing is to take aligned action, and that aligned action is to just think, if I knew that this was done, if I knew that I couldn't fail, how would I choose to show up today? Who would I call in? What would I write? Who would I speak to? How would I choose to feel in this moment if I knew that it was already done? Do those things.
Love it. That is such amazing advice. I love it. Thank you so much. It has been a blast to have you on here. And I know that if we got into the quantum physics conversation, Somebody would have to come and bring us dinner, because it's yeah, it's such a juicy topic. So I hope that you will come back in the future and chat to us maybe again about that, and we'll maybe just do a special episode on that. I would love that. Tell us a little bit about where they can find you on the interwebs. How can people get hold of you and find you and follow you and all the things?
Yes, so I spend a lot of time hanging out on Facebook in the Quantum Success Hub for female entrepreneurs. You can come and play over there, or you can find me on Suzy, SUZY_Ashworth on Instagram.
Perfect. I love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, lovely.